The combat evaluation chamber hummed, with a frequency that made instructor Krell's secondary lungs ache. He had overseen 347 training cycles in his career, watched cadets from a dozen species prove themselves worthy of the Galactic Defense Corps, but never not once had he felt this particular twist of concern in his thorax. The human stood in the preparation alcove. Krell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he studied her through the observation panel. Cadet Myra Hayes, the file said 22 solar cycles from a planet designated Earth, category 9 Deathworld, the absolute highest classification on the habitability scale. She looked soft. That was the problem. Every instinct Krell had developed over his centuries of service screamed that this creature should not be here, should not be preparing to face combat scenarios designed to push elite soldiers to their absolute limits. Her frame was slight compared to the armored bulk of a Thorian warrior or the dense muscle mass of a Vexian shock trooper. Her skin, exposed at her neck and hands, appeared thin enough to tear on any sharp surface. No natural armor plating, no venomous spine, no radiation-resistant carapace. Just pink, vulnerable flesh wrapped around breakable bones. Instructor, the voice belonged to Proctor Venn, a Saurian whose scales gleamed blue-green under the chamber lights. The cadet has completed her equipment check. Should we begin? Krell's mandibles clicked together, the Carvian equivalent of a heavy sigh. Has she been briefed on the difficulty scaling? Yes, sir, standard protocol. We informed her that first year cadets typically face level 3 scenarios. She insisted on level 5. Level 5. Krell repeated the word slowly, as if tasting something bitter. That is what candidates face before graduation. Warriors with 3 years of training. Ven's tail swished uncertainly. She was quite adamant, sir. Said anything less would be, quote, a waste of her time and hours. Through the panel, Krell watched the human performing what appeared to be some kind of ritual. She bent at the waist, touched her toes, then stretched her arms above her head, warming her muscles perhaps. Most species required at least an hour of preparation. She had been in the alcove for 8 minutes. Very well. Krell activated his comm unit. Cadet Hayes, you may enter the examination zone. The door slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Myra Hayes walked through it like she was strolling into a meal hall, not an environment that had sent multiple cadets to the medical wing with severe injuries. She wore the standard training suit, form-fitting gray material that monitored vitals and provided minimal impact protection. In her right hand she carried a practice rifle powered down to deliver stunning force rather than lethal damage. On her hip, a standard-issue blade. The door sealed behind her with a sound like finality. Beginning scenario in 10 seconds, Venn announced through the chamber speakers. Remember, cadet, you have 3 objectives. Survive for 15 minutes. Neutralize at least 5 hostile targets. Reach the extraction point at the chamber's far end. Krell leaned forward, his teaching instincts warring with his pessimism. In his experience, humans fell into 2 categories. Either they were reckless, charging forward with no regard for their laughable physical limitations, or they froze, overwhelmed by the reality that the galaxy was full of things much more dangerous than they were. He expected Myra Hayes to be the latter. She had that thoughtful look about her, those quick eyes that seemed to calculate every angle. Smart humans seized up when intelligence met terror. The scenario activated 3 combat. Drones materialized from concealed panels, their anti-gravity fields crackling to life. Each drone was programmed with aggression algorithms that mimicked actual combat opponents. They spread out immediately, forming a tactical triangle around the human. Myra Hayes dropped to one knee. Krell felt his breath catch. Here it came, the freeze, the moment when the prey animal realized it was surrounded by predators. He reached for the emergency abort control. Then she moved, not backward, not into a defensive crouch, forward. She rolled, actually rolled across the floor like some kind of wheel coming up between 2 of the drones before they could adjust their targeting solutions. Her rifle barked twice, rapid shots that caught the first drone in its central processor. It sparked and fell. What in the void? Then scales rippled with shock. The second drone fired a stun blast that should have taken her in the back. Should have. Myra Hayes twisted, and Krell's excellent vision caught something impossible. She had moved before the drone fired, anticipating its attack vector rather than reacting to it. The blast passed through empty air where she had been a fraction of a second earlier. Her return shot destroyed the drone's motivator. It crashed to the floor with a satisfying crunch. The third drone, displaying more sophisticated programming, retreated to gain distance. Smart drones were most effective at range, where they could leverage superior sensors and processing speed. Myra Hayes ran after it, actually ran toward the armed combat drone. Krell had never seen anything quite so insane. She fired as she moved. Not aimed shots, but a pattern of suppressing fire that forced the drone to prioritize evasion over attack. It bobbed and weaved, its algorithms calculating optimal response, but here was the thing that made Krell's teaching brain start to reevaluate everything. She was not trying to hit it. She was hurting it. The drone backed directly into one of the chamber's structural columns. Myra Hayes closed the distance in 2 long strides and drove her blade into the drone's optical sensor cluster. Sparks fountained. The drone died. Elapsed time 43 seconds. Increased difficulty. Krell heard himself say, "Deploy the next wave." Ven's head swiveled to stare at him. "Sir, the scenario calls for a 2-minute respite between waves. Deploy them now." 6 more drones materialized. These were hunter-killers, faster and equipped with enhanced targeting suites. They emerged already firing a coordinated barrage that lit up the chamber with stun blasts. Myra Hayes was already moving. She used the destroyed drones as cover, sliding behind their bulk as energy bolts scorched the air above her. Then she did something that made Krell's secondary heart skip a beat. She threw her rifle, just hurled it through the air like a primitive spear. It struck one of the hunter-killers dead center, not hard enough to destroy it, but sufficient to knock it off course. The drone spun, its gyroscopes fighting for stability. That was when she produced something from her boot, a second blade smaller than the first. Where had she concealed that? The equipment scan should have detected any weapons beyond standard issue, unless she had brought something that was not classified as a weapon. The knife flashed in her hand as she Charge the disoriented drone, she grabbed it, actually grabbed the combat drone with her bare hand, despite the crackling energy field around its chassis, and stabbed upward into its undercarriage. The drone shrieked electronically and died. Impossible, Ven whispered. Those fields should have repelled her. Krell said nothing. He was too busy watching. 500 killers remained, and they had learned. They spread out, maintaining overlapping fields of fire, denying her any approach vector. Standard suppression tactics against most opponents. This would end the engagement. Pin the target down, wait for an opening, deliver the kill shot. Myra Hayes laughed. The sound came through the chamber speakers, bright and wild and utterly inappropriate for someone in mortal danger. She laughed like she was playing some kind of game, like this was fun rather than a life-threatening examination. Then she ran straight at them. Not dodging, not weaving, just a direct sprint at 5 armed opponents who were actively trying to kill her. Metaphorically speaking, the drones fired. They could not miss. The targeting solutions were perfect. The calculations absolute. 5 simultaneous shots at an opponent. Running in a straight line, she jumped. Not up forward, she dove, actually dove through the air like she was plunging into water, her body horizontal and stretched out. The stun blasts passed beneath her, and for one impossible moment Myra Hayes flew. She hit the ground in a roll that transformed instantly into a sprint. Now she was inside the drone's optimal firing range, too close for their targeting computers to track effectively. She retrieved her rifle from where it had fallen, somehow scooping it up without breaking stride, and fired point blank into the nearest drone. It exploded in a shower of components. 4 left. They tried to back away to re-establish proper combat distance. She did not let them. She moved between them like water, flowing through cracks, always in motion, never where they expected her to be. Her rifle barked again and again, each shot precise despite the chaos of close combat. 3 left, 2, 1. The last drone managed to fire. The stun blast caught her in the shoulder, and Krell saw her jerk from the impact. Not enough charge to fully incapacitate, but sufficient to cause pain and partial paralysis. She switched the rifle to her other hand and destroyed the drone anyway. Silence fell over the chamber. Myra Hayes stood among the wreckage, breathing hard but upright. Her right arm hung slightly limp from the stun effect, but she rolled her shoulder experimentally as if testing the damage. Time elapsed, Krell asked, though he already knew. 4 minutes 12 seconds, Ven replied in a hollow voice. 4 minutes, not 15. 4. Sir, the scenario is not complete. She still needs to reach the extraction point. Krell watched the human start walking toward the chamber's far end. Her gait confident despite the 11 destroyed drones littering the floor behind her. I suspect that will not be a problem. He was correct. Myra Hayes crossed the remaining distance without incident, mainly because the scenario designers had not anticipated anyone clearing the initial waves so quickly. The extraction point's door opened at her approach. She turned before exiting, looked directly at the observation panel, and smiled. Not a friendly smile. A smile that said she knew exactly how many assumptions she had just shattered. Then she saluted, crisp and proper, and walked out. Krell stood motionless for several long Moments. Around him, the control room had gone. Silent. Proctor Venn was methodically reviewing the combat footage as if hoping to find some error in the recording. Other instructors who had gathered to watch the humans' inevitable failure were making excuses to be elsewhere. Instructor. Venn's voice was small. What do we do? That was the question, was it not? What did you do when everything you thought you knew about a species was demonstrated to be catastrophically wrong? Krell activated his comm unit. Cadet Hayes, report to my office in 1 hour. The response came immediately, that too. Casual voice still carrying traces of amusement. Yes, sir. Should I bring anything specific? Your training records from Earth, all of them. Understood, sir. See you in an hour. The comm clicked off. Krell turned to Venn, who still looked like he had witnessed something that violated the fundamental laws of physics. Proctor, I need you to do something for me. Anything, sir. Contact the admissions board. Find out how many more humans are in the incoming class. Venn's scales went pale. Sir, surely you do not think they are all capable of that? Krell gestured at the footage still playing on the monitor where Myra Hayes dodged and struck and moved like violence incarnate. That is exactly what I'm afraid of. We have been categorizing death worlders based on their environmental survivability, gravity tolerance, atmospheric toxicity, temperature extremes. That is standard protocol, sir. Yes, and I suspect our protocols are dangerously inadequate. Krell pulled up Myra Hayes's file again, staring at the smiling photograph that accompanied her application. She looked so harmless there, so soft. We classified Earth as a Category 9 death world because of its conditions: extreme weather, geological instability, abundant predators. We assumed the humans survived despite those conditions. Venn's tail curled with uncertainty. Are you suggesting otherwise, sir? Krell thought about the way Myra Hayes had laughed while surrounded by hostile drones. The way she had moved, not with the desperation of prey, but with the confidence of something that had never known fear because nothing on its home planet had ever been truly safe from it. I am suggesting, Proctor, that we have made a terrible mistake. We thought death worlders were victims of their environment, creatures that survived against impossible odds. He closed the file, the image of Myra Hayes' smile burning in his memory. What if we were wrong? What if they are not survivors of death worlds but products of them? I do not understand, sir. They do not come from death worlds. Despite being weak, Proctor, they are dangerous because they come from death worlds. Krell's mandibles clicked rapidly. Sign of deep agitation. Every predator on that planet has been trying to kill them for millions of years. Every disease, every natural disaster, every environmental hazard. They did not just survive, they won. They conquered their entire planet. Venn was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a tremor. And now they are here. Yes. Krell watched the empty chamber, already dreading the remaining examinations scheduled for today. 3 more humans. Now they are here, and we invited them. We looked at their soft flesh and their small frames, and we thought they needed protection. What do they need, sir? Krell thought about Myra Hayes' smile, that expression of pure predatory joy. Honestly, Proctor, I am beginning to think we should be asking what protection we need from them. The hour passed too quickly for Krell's liking. He spent most of it reviewing everything the Galactic Defense Corps had on file about Earth, and what he found did not improve his mood one bit. Humans had been on the galactic stage for only 3 years, 3 years since first contact, since the exploration vessel had stumbled across their system and found a species that had somehow developed faster-than-light communication before achieving interstellar travel. Backward, the initial reports had called them primitive. Their technology was a patchwork of brilliant innovations and baffling inefficiencies. The files mentioned their physical limitations extensively. Short lifespan compared to most sentient species. Fragile bone structure. No natural defenses. Highly susceptible to toxins that other species barely noticed. What the files did not mention, what nobody had apparently thought to document, was how humans fought. A chime announced Myra Hayes' arrival. Krell straightened in his chair, which had been custom-built to accommodate his Carvian physiology. Enter. She walked in looking completely unaffected by the combat exam. Her right arm still showed slight motor irregularity from the stun blast, but she moved with easy confidence. The training suit had been replaced by the standard cadet uniform, dark blue, with minimal insignia. Reporting as ordered, sir. She stood at attention, her posture textbook perfect. Krell gestured to the visitor's chair with one of his secondary arms. Sit, Cadet Hayes, this is not a disciplinary meeting. She sat, and Krell noticed her eyes flicking around his office, cataloging exits, noting the position of objects that could be used as weapons or cover. Combat awareness so ingrained it was automatic. You requested my training record, sir. She produced a data chip from her pocket. Everything from basic instruction through advanced combat school is here. Krell took the chip but did not immediately insert it into his reader. Tell me about your training, Cadet, in your own words. Sir, my file should contain all relevant information about my qualifications and certifications. Humor me. She leaned back slightly, and something about her expression reminded Krell of instructors he had known, people who had seen too much to be surprised by anything too knowing for someone so young. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest region of North America, she began. Started martial arts training when I was 6 years old. By the time I was 12, I had black belts in 3 different disciplines and was competing in mixed combat tournaments. Competing against adults, Krell asked, trying to imagine a human child facing full-grown opponents. Yes, sir. There were youth divisions, but they were boring. She said it without arrogance, just stated fact. When I was 16, I joined a wilderness survival program, spent 3 months in the Cascade Mountains with minimal equipment, then 6 months in the Amazon rainforest. After that, Arctic survival training in northern Canada. Krell's mandibles clicked. Why? Why what, sir? Why would you voluntarily subject yourself to such dangerous conditions? You were not yet an adult by your species standards. Myra Hayes smiled, and there was that predator's gleam again. Because I wanted to know if I could. Sir, most people go their whole lives never testing their limits. I wanted to find mine. And did you? No, sir, still looking. The casual way she said it sent a chill through Krell's thorax. She was not boasting. She genuinely believed she had not yet encountered anything that could truly challenge her. Continue, he said. After I turned 18, I enlisted in Earth's military. Marines specifically. Completed basic training, then qualified for special operations. Spent 2 years doing classified work in hostile environments. Her expression flickered, something dark passing behind her eyes. When the Galactic Defense Corps opened recruitment to humans, I applied immediately. Why leave your planet's military for an organization where you would be starting over as a first-year cadet? Because Earth's military prepared me to fight humans, sir. I have been fighting humans my entire life. I wanted to see what the rest of the galaxy had to offer. Krell inserted the data chip into his reader. Files cascaded across his screen. Combat scores, psychological evaluations, mission reports, heavily redacted. One phrase appeared repeatedly in her assessment documents: exceeds all established parameters. Your instructors on Earth, Krell said slowly, they rated you as exceptional even by human standards. They were kind, sir. I do not think kindness had anything to do with it. Krell pulled up a specific file, a psychological profile completed 6 months before her application to the Corps. This evaluation says you have what they term an unusually high tolerance for risk and discomfort. It suggests you may have difficulty recognizing appropriate caution in dangerous situations. That evaluation was written by a psychologist who had never been in combat, sir. She thought anyone who volunteered for missions instead of waiting to be assigned must have a death wish. And you do not. No, sir. I have a life wish. I want to live as fully as possible, and you cannot do that by playing it safe. Krell closed the files and regarded her with all 4 eyes. What did you think of today's examination? Honestly, sir, always. It was disappointing. She met his gaze without flinching. I expected the Galactic Defense Corps to have higher standards. Those drones were predictable. Their movement patterns followed obvious algorithms. A halfway competent programmer could have made them more challenging. They have successfully tested 347 cadets before you. Then perhaps your previous cadets were not adequately prepared, sir. The audacity of it should have been offensive. Instead, Krell found himself making a decision that probably violated at least 6 regulations. Would you be interested in an additional assessment? Her eyes brightened. What kind of assessment? A live combat exercise, not drones. Actual opponents. Other cadets. Instructors. Myra Hayes sat forward, her entire posture changing to something eager and focused. How many instructors, sir? As many as it takes to find your limits. Krell activated his comm unit. Proctor Venn, please assemble a combat team. I need 6 of our best instructors in full tactical gear. Live training weapons, ready in 30 minutes. Venn's voice came back uncertain, sir. For what purpose? Cadet Hayes requires additional evaluation. A long pause. Sir, is that wise? Probably not. Do it anyway. Krell switched off the comm and looked at Myra Hayes, who was practically vibrating with anticipation. Rules are simple, cadet. You will face 6 veteran combat instructors in a free-form engagement. No time limit, no objectives except to survive and engage. The exercise ends when you are incapacitated or when you successfully neutralize the entire team. What if I do not want to hurt your instructors, sir? They are wearing full protective gear and have decades of experience each. I assure you they can handle themselves. That was not what I asked, sir. Krell's respect for the human increased another notch. You have permission to use any non-lethal force necessary. My instructors understand the risks. They volunteered for this duty knowing it would be challenging. They do not know who they will be facing, do they? Not yet. I thought it best to let them form their own opinions. Myra Hayes laughed, that same bright sound from the examination chamber. Oh, this is going to be educational. 28 minutes later, Krell stood in a different observation room overlooking one of the outdoor training grounds. This was where the Corps practiced complex maneuvers, urban combat scenarios, and large-scale tactical operations. Plenty of space, plenty of cover, plenty of ways for things to go catastrophically wrong. Proctor Venn joined him, scales still pale with concern. The combat team is ready, sir. I have instructor Drath leading. He brought 5 of his most experienced operators. Drath, Krell felt a small measure of relief. Drath was a Thorian, built like a tank and covered in natural armor plating that could stop most small arms fire. If anyone could handle an overconfident human, it would be him. Who else? Instructor Pella, Vexian shock trooper. Instructor Nix, Saurian infiltration specialist. Instructor Korv Zentari. Heavy weapons expert, Instructor Lin. Arisian combat medic with advanced tactical training, and Instructor Voss. Another Thorian. 6 species, 6 different combat specializations, combined experience of over 200 years, all facing one 22-year-old human. This is insane, Venn muttered. If she gets hurt, the human diplomatic Corps will file a formal complaint. If she does not get hurt, we have a much bigger problem. Krell activated the field communications. Instructor Drath, you are authorized to begin when ready. Drath's voice rumbled through the speakers, deep and confident. Understood, sir. The human cadet has been positioned at the southern entry point. We have established a defensive perimeter around the primary structure. Standard search and neutralize pattern. Krell watched the 6 instructors moving into position. They were taking this seriously, treating it like an actual combat operation. Good. They would need every advantage. Myra Hayes appeared at the southern entry point, visible on multiple camera feeds. She wore light tactical armor now, more protection than the training suit, but still minimal compared to what the instructors carried. She had been issued a standard loadout. Rifle, sidearm, tactical knife, 3 flash grenades. She was stretching again. Those same casual movements like this was a morning exercise routine. All units, target is mobile. Drath announced. Nix, you have point. Pella, cover the eastern approach. Everyone else, maintain formation and watch for flanking. Professional, coordinated, exactly what Krell would have ordered. Myra Hayes finished stretching and started jogging toward the primary structure. Not running, not sneaking. Just a light jog, as if she was out for exercise. Is she serious? Ven stared at the monitors. She is approaching directly. No attempt at stealth. I believe she is making a statement. Krell said quietly. Instructor Nix, the Silurian specialist, radioed in. I have visual on the target. She is advancing without cover. Should I engage? Negative, Drath responded. Hold position. This could be a feint. But it was not a feint. Myra Hayes jogged right up to the primary structure's entrance and stopped. She looked directly at one of the security cameras and waved. Then she tossed something through the door. Flash grenade, someone shouted. Explosion was blinding even through the cameras. Krell's vision cleared in time to see Myra Hayes rushing through the entrance, while the defenders were still recovering. Contact, she is inside the perimeter. Drath sounded more surprised than concerned. All units converge on primary structure. Voss, cover the rear exit. Everyone else with me. 5 instructors moved toward the building with practiced efficiency. They entered through multiple access points, coordinating their approach to prevent friendly fire incidents. For almost 30 seconds, nothing happened. The cameras inside the building showed empty corridors, abandoned rooms. No sign of the human. Then the lights went out. She cut the power, Pella announced. Switching to thermal imaging. Negative effect, Nix reported almost immediately. Building's thermal signature is too hot. Recent activity has heated every surface. Cannot distinguish individual heat sources. Clever, Krell thought. She had not cut the power to hide. She had cut it to deny them their technological advantage. A crash echoed through the building. Contact, second floor. That was Korv, the heavy weapons specialist. She dropped from the ceiling. I am pursuing. Sound of weapons fire, then silence. Korv, report. Drath's voice had lost its confidence. No response. Korv is down. Lynn's voice, the combat medic. Stun round to the neck. He will be fine, but he is out of this exercise. 5 instructors left. New plan, Drath said. Everyone out of the building. We establish a perimeter and wait for her to come to us. She cannot stay in there forever. The HFY instructors retreated in good order. No panic, just tactical adjustment. They formed a loose circle around the building, weapons trained on every exit. Myra Hayes did not come out. 1 minute passed. 2. 5. Where is she? Pella's voice carried frustration. There are only 4 exits. We have them all covered. Check the roof, Drath ordered. Instructor Voss, the second Thorian, moved to get a better angle. Roof is clear, no movement visible. Then she is still inside. Pella, Nix, go back in carefully this time. Check every room. The 2 instructors entered the building. Again, Krell watched their camera feeds as they cleared room after room, finding nothing. Sir, Nix reported. We have checked the entire first floor. No sign of the human. Second floor, Drath ordered. They ascended the stairs, moving with admirable caution. The second floor was a maze of training rooms and equipment storage. Plenty of places to hide. Pella opened a storage locker. Myra Hayes was not inside. Her rifle was. Weapon cache located. Pella said she ditched her primary weapon. Why would she do that? The answer came in the form of a ceiling tile falling on Pella's head. Myra Hayes dropped through the opening. Like a spider, landed on the Vexian shoulders and delivered a precise strike to the nerve cluster at the base of Pella's skull. The instructor collapsed. Nyx fired, but the human had already moved, rolling off the unconscious Vexian and coming up with Pella's weapon in hand. She is armed with Pella's equipment. Nyx backpedaled toward the stairs, requesting backup. Myra Hayes did not pursue. She vanished back into the maze of rooms. "This is not possible," Ven whispered beside Krell. "She is picking them apart." 4 instructors remained. They regrouped outside, visible tension in their movements now. "New strategy," Drath announced. "We burn her out." "Voss, do you have incendiary grenades?" "Affirmative, but sir, those are for extreme situations only." "This qualifies. Set the building on fire. She will have to come out, and when she does, we take her down." Krell almost stopped the exercise. Almost, but something made him wait. Voss lobbed 3 incendiary grenades through different windows. Fire bloomed inside the structure, spreading quickly through the training materials and wooden furniture. Smoke began pouring from the building. Still no sign of Myra Hayes. "She has to come out," Drath muttered. "Humans cannot survive smoke inhalation. Their respiratory systems are too sensitive." The fire grew. The building was fully engulfed now. Krell's hand hovered over the abort button. Then he saw movement. Not from the building. From behind the instructors. How Ven breathed, Myra Hayes emerged from a drainage tunnel 50 m behind the defensive perimeter. She was soaked, covered in mud, and she had somehow acquired Korv's heavy weapon during her time inside the building. She fired. The weapon was set to wide dispersal stun mode. The blast caught all 4 remaining instructors simultaneously. They dropped like their strings had been cut. Exercise complete. Total time 11 minutes. Final score: 6 instructors neutralized, 0 injuries sustained. Myra Hayes stood among the unconscious instructors, the heavy weapon resting casually on her shoulder, and looked directly at the observation window. She could not possibly see through the tinted glass, but somehow Krell knew she was looking right at him. She saluted again. Then she set down the weapon and started helping the stunned instructors to their feet. Krell sat down heavily, his legs suddenly unreliable. Beside him, Ven was making small distress sounds. "Sir," the proctor finally managed, "what do we do with her?" That was the question been haunting Krell since the first examination. What did you do with a cadet who exceeded every standard, who treated impossible challenges like minor inconveniences? "We train her properly," Krell said. "Finally. And we learn from her. Because she represents something we have never encountered before." "What is that, sir?" Krell thought about Myra Hayes fighting her way through impossible odds with a smile on her face. Thought about Earth, that nightmare planet where everything was trying to kill you, and the apex predators were hairless primates with delusions of immortality. She represents the future, Proctor. Humans are here now. They will keep coming. And if they are all even half as capable as that one. He gestured at the screen where Myra Hayes was helping Instructor Drath to his feet, checking to make sure the big Thorian was uninjured. Then the galaxy is about to become a very different place. 3 weeks later, Krell stood before the Academy Council, presenting his findings. The chamber was full of the Corps' highest-ranking officials representing dozens of species and centuries of combined military experience. In conclusion, Krell said, bringing his presentation to a close, I recommend we establish a specialized training program for human cadets, not because they need additional help, but because our current programs are inadequate for their capabilities. Silence greeted this pronouncement. Finally, Admiral Thrax, a Zentari with more medals than Krell had appendages, spoke up. Instructor Krell, are you suggesting we create easier courses for humans? No, Admiral. I am suggesting we create harder ones. That makes no sense. Deathworlders require more protection, not less. With respect, Admiral, that assumption is what led to our current situation. We have been operating under the belief that Deathworld species are fragile creatures that survive despite their harsh environments. Cadet Hayes has demonstrated that this belief is fundamentally flawed. Krell pulled up footage from both examinations. The Council watched in stunned silence as Myra Hayes dismantled scenarios designed to challenge the galaxy's elite warriors. Humans do not survive death worlds. Krell continued. They thrive on them. Every environmental pressure that should have destroyed them instead made them stronger, faster, more adaptable. They evolved alongside predators that could kill them in seconds, diseases that ravaged their populations, and natural disasters that reshaped continents. And they conquered it all. What are you proposing? Admiral Thrax asked quietly. I propose we stop treating humans like they need our protection and start recognizing them for what they are. The most dangerous predators ever to emerge from a death world. We need to adjust our entire training philosophy to account for species that view risk differently than we do. Another council member, a Carvian female with elegant mandibles, leaned forward. Are all humans like Cadet Hayes? No, Krell admitted, but enough of them are similar that we need to be prepared. Earth sent us their best for this first recruitment cycle. They sent their warriors there, athletes, their people who spent their entire lives preparing for challenges we cannot imagine. We expected them to struggle. Instead, they are redefining what we thought was possible. The council deliberated for hours. In the end, they approved Krell's proposal, with one modification. He would not just create a new training program for human cadets, he would command it. 6 months later, Krell stood in his new office at the Advanced Combat Training facility watching the latest group of human cadets arrive. 37 of them, all volunteers, all carrying that same dangerous gleam in their eyes. Myra Hayes was among them, now wearing the insignia of a junior instructor. She had graduated at the top of her class despite being held to standards no other cadet had faced. Now she would help train the next generation. Nervous, sir? She asked, joining him at the window. Terrified, Krell admitted. Your species is going to turn the Galactic Defense Corps upside down. We already have. She smiled, but it was not predatory. This time it was genuine, warm. But I think you will find we are also very good at teamwork. Humans are not just warriors. Instructor, we are protectors. Give us something worth defending, and we will hold the line against anything. Krell looked at the incoming cadets, at the future of galactic defense, and felt something unexpected. Hope. Perhaps humanity was exactly what the galaxy needed. Not despite being Deathworlders, but because of it. They brought fire and fury and an absolute refusal to accept impossible odds. They had spent millions of years earning their place at the top of Earth's food chain. Now they would show the galaxy what that really meant. The first day of training began with a speech Krell had prepared carefully. 37 humans stood at attention before him, representing a dozen nations, 100 different backgrounds, but united by one simple truth. They were here to prove what they could do. Welcome, Krell began, to advanced combat training. You are here because you represent the best your species has to offer. You are here because we need to understand what humans are truly capable of. You are here because the galaxy is watching, wondering if Earth's warriors can match the legends we have heard. He paused, letting the weight of expectation settle over them. I am here to tell you that the legends are wrong. They underestimate you. Surprised murmurs rippled through the formation. Beside him, Myra Hayes smiled. This facility exists for one purpose: to push you beyond every limit you thought you had. We will not coddle you. We will not make allowances for your supposed weaknesses. We will treat you like the dangerous, capable, brilliant predators you have proven yourselves to be. Krell looked at each face, saw the hunger there, the desire to be challenged. Welcome to the Galactic Defense Corps. Welcome to your new hunting ground. Now, show us what Earth sends to the stars. The 37 humans roared their acceptance, and Krell knew with absolute certainty that the galaxy would never be the same. They thought humans were weak. They were wrong. And now everyone would learn what Deathworlder truly meant.